So Netflix has A Diplomat. It's this show with Kerry Russell. Its third season just came out. It also has this new Kathryn Bigelow movie. It's called A House of Dynamite. Idris Elba plays the president. And both have landed at a super tenuous moment in global geopolitics. So how is the real world shaping the politics on the screen? I'm Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This is Commotion. Kathryn VanArendonk is here. L. Jones is here. They have thoughts on this. Hello, friends. How are you?
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
It's nice to have you here. Listen, Kathryn, I'm going to start with you because The Diplomat is in its third season, and that feels like an unlikely sentence because I don't hear a lot of people talking about The Diplomat. But Kerry Russell, Rufus Sewell, they are diplomats, but also there's some political espionage, and also there's maybe marital struggles. If you've never heard about this show, what's the thing that you should know about The Diplomat?
So the idea of The Diplomat is that Kerry Russell plays the wife of somebody who has been the kind of out front diplomatic global ambassador figure. That's Rufus Sewell's character. But in the first episode of the first season, it's like, whoops, through some mistaken situations and surprises, she becomes the ambassador to the UK. And so there's a lot of like, uh-oh, girl bossing kinds of things where she's been really working behind the scenes, but now she has to understand how to make her hair work. And like, she just wants to do serious diplomacy and the real things, but she needs to understand things like, you know, how to dress and imagery and all of these kinds of symbolism things that she has always ignored. And so that's kind of the opening premise of the series. The thing to know about what it feels like to actually watch, though, is that it's sort of a pleasantly curdled version of The West Wing. It has this, it loves process. It loves endless kinds of machinations about who has power and when and why. Everyone is also sleeping together. There's like some clear throuple energy happening in the early first season. And it's this romp of uh-oh, maybe the world could end at any moment. And that's really what it feels like. Season 3, I should note, I went to the premiere, and the creator, Deborah Kahn, who also came from The West Wing, was saying at that point, like, we wanted to make a show about how hard it is to do international diplomacy and how hard all of these people work. And we did not intend for it to be fictional, or at least this fictional.
Well, I should also note, pleasantly curdled version of The West Wing is a lovely phrase. It literally also has Allison Janney and Bradley Whitford, right? So we are borrowing some of the sort of West Wing sort of mainstays. And something that you like about this show is the ways it sort of balances the seriousness, but also the levity. Do you want to talk about how it marries those two ideas, Kathryn?
Yeah, so it is really invested in how important all of this is. Like, it is, these characters care a great deal about the outcome of democracy around the world and like how to keep the international order running smoothly. But they are also goofballs and sort of slightly inept at times in human ways. And again, they do keep sleeping with each other in like particularly unfortunate, awkward, and like highly dramatic moments on the floor sometimes. And so it's like, it is this very fun, bubbly experience.
Mm-hmm. I want to play, I like the idea that it has sort of all this attempt at taking diplomacy seriously, but also being like, hey, we're trying to have fun in the show. That balance is a hard balance, I think, to strike. So I want to play a little bit of a clip here. This is an exchange between Kerry Russell's character and her colleagues. The context is the sitting U.S. president has died. And then the vice president was in the U.K. when this happened. So they're trying to figure out where should they swear in the new head of state.
We need to swear her in, like, now.
And not on foreign soil.
On the plane?
Is the plane America?
The plane is not America.
Then when we hit American airspace?
That's still 12 hours from now.
The embassy is, right? It's American soil.
It's not.
People come to the embassy and claim asylum because it's American soil.
And then they don't get asylum because it's not American soil.
It's also, they're talking so fast. You're like, am I watching The West Wing? That feels so comforting to me as I sort of listen to that. The Diplomat is a fictional series that is set in the present day, but it's using a style of diplomacy that does not reflect the kind of diplomacy that you see from the current U.S. administration. I'm curious how those contrasts sort of shape the way that you respond to a show like this one.
Yeah, I think the West Wing point is important because in some ways this feels like a time capsule of the death of the liberal dream. This idea that you can have potentially a woman president and a woman vice president after the failed runs of both Hillary and Kamala. The idea that somehow these smart, rational, hardworking people that really just want the best for the world, you know? So this kind of idea, the idea that we can still fantasize about this, but what's interesting about it is it kind of also reveals perhaps the failure of that mindset. And I say that because it's a show that's very self-consciously smart. So it's the pleasure is supposed to be, you know, hearing all these smart people talk about all these smart things. And so they'll bring up all the time things like the situation in Afghanistan or bombing Yemen. But at the same time, it maintains the status quo about American foreign policy. So you get this idea on the surface, we feel so bad that we have to bomb things and do drone strikes. But ultimately, you kind of just have to bomb things and do drone strikes. And that's just kind of the way the world is. So in a way, it's a capsule of exactly the democratic mindset at this point. And that's what kind of makes it fascinating as well, because I think it shows the limits, perhaps, of the liberal mindset in this moment, and then exactly the way that Democrats think about themselves and the shortcomings of that.
I was going to say, Kathryn, the thing that people say about The West Wing, and maybe the thing that people will also say about The Diplomat, is that there is an insistent sort of belief in the capacity of government, right? The capacity of sort of like liberalism to sort of just like maintain these institutions, and they will hold in the face of no matter what happens. And now you can kind of like look at that and go, oh, that's a world that's maybe a little bit gone by. The idea that these institutions will just hold in the face of anything. What do you make of what Elle was saying there?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. I do think it is really fascinating that the creator did come from the world of The West Wing.
Yeah.
And that The Diplomat, I think all of the things Elle is saying about sort of what this show is and its assumptions are 100% correct. And yet even still, I think like the creator has attempted to move enough farther away from where The West Wing was. Like these people are enough more of a mess. And there is a lot more self-doubt, particularly as we get farther into like the season 3, about whether any of what they're doing is right or good. And it does reflect this sense of, wait, maybe our audience is going to watch this and think, what, where are we exactly? Now, it has not actually fully gone off the rails in that respect. It would be really interesting to see what a future season will look like. It is a very popular show here.
I will say that like I watch The West Wing as like a morality play, right? Like sort of like that's a part of why you watch The West Wing is because these people are quite certain that they're right. I don't think you have the same approach with The Diplomat. I think there's a certain sense of like, I think we're just kind of trying our best, but also in doing so, maybe we're retelling ourselves certain myths. And speaking, oh, sorry, go ahead. You're going to say something, Gabby.
No, I was just going to say 100% that is correct. And the more they tell those myths, the more they are also going like, we're telling ourselves myths, right? Like,
exactly
Yeah.
right. I was going to say, speaking of telling myths, we're going to switch gears because I want to talk about this new Kathryn Bigelow movie. It's called A House of Dynamite. There's a fictional U.S. administration where Idris Elba is president, and they're grappling with how best to respond with a single nuclear missile that was launched. They don't know who launched it or where it's coming from, and it is minutes away from obliterating the city of Chicago. Here's a clip from that show.
I always thought just being ready is the point. That keeps the villain in check. Keeps the world straight. They see how prepared we are. No one starts a nuclear war. None of this makes sense. Making all these bombs and all these plans. The walls are just ready to blow.
So that's a bit of the trailer of House of Dynamite, this new movie that just came out. It stars Idris Elba and Rebecca Ferguson. Listen, Kathryn Bigelow has made a whole bunch of these movies, a whole bunch of movies that are interested in sort of like the U.S. at war in different kind of settings. How did this story land for you?
Yeah, I mean, actually, before we came on the air, you were just talking about American cinematography in relationship to the World Series. And that's very relevant, I think, because, the military pays for these kind of movies. Like they bring the actors in. And I think about, to give an example, I actually went on a nuclear aircraft carrier in my lifetime. The USS Eisenhower was in the Halifax Harbor. And as a fervently anti-nuclear and also fervently anti-war, anti-weaponry person, I felt myself seduced by this legacy of American cinematography around these things. You know, it was sunset, they opened the bay doors, a helicopter came down, they played the stars, Star Spangled Banner, and part of me was like, America, And I say that because this is the kind of propaganda that's so powerful around American foreign policy. But then when you look deeper into what's happening here, again, we have very serious people doing their very serious jobs. This impending nuclear missile is coming. It's supposed to open this conversation about weaponry and nuclear power. But why can't we have that conversation without that weapon pointed at America? This is an out of the blue scenario where America is somehow the innocent victim, despite America's decades of military provocations and destruction of everybody else. And then we're supposed to humanize this because this missile from one of the evil axis is pointed at America. So I think, again, it's very telling of how seductive this kind of propaganda that we're constantly watching on the military, on weaponry, on America the free, America the brave, how that actually works. And I think this film really encapsulates that.
I mean, it's also partially a movie about American restraint, which is an interesting thing to sort of make a movie about right now. Like this idea of like the U.S. is grappling with how to respond, because if they respond, then other sort of enemies will respond worse. And so what you get is sort of Idris Elba hemming and hawing, being like, we know that we're about to be attacked. How do we respond as a country? At Kathryn, there are countless of movies that sort of like center on these ideas of like nuclear missile scenarios, but this one's getting a lot of attention specifically for the way that Kathryn Bigelow sort of approached this topic. What do you make of her approach to the U.S., being threatened and kind of framing that conversation?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is this sense that the movie is, and please feel my giant air quotes here, brave about how it is depicting sort of potential American failures to respond to this kind of thing. That, there's this key moment in the film where they are shooting out these like anti-missile weaponry that are going to hopefully intersect with whatever this missile is, and the day will be saved. And like things do not work out that way, and everyone seems aghast in the film that like, oh my God, like what happens if this fails? What if we are not, in fact, completely safe from the rest of the world? And so I think there is, for a certain perspective, the movie feels like this look at potential American flaws, right?
Continue. Yeah, continue.
No,
sorry.
I think that is worth pointing out and like really feeling that, although then it's being real about this film. But then there are just all these other elements that I find infuriating.
Just to add very quickly, the Pentagon actually released a statement and said, no, our weapons don't fail. They're 100% effective.
Yeah, I'm not owned. Don't put in the newspaper I was owned. It is striking how powerfully and like immediate that response has been, despite so many other elements of the film being, I think, so celebratory, as Elle is sort of pointing out. Yeah.
Well, just to that point, like that statement came out because of a number of people who've worked in national security have been like, oh, this movie is like kind of strikingly accurate in terms of like the maybe question marks around the U.S.'s ability to respond to a threat like this one. And this is, this movie sort of depicts exactly the nightmare scenarios that we kind of worry about. And then you get, this statement from the Pentagon. The Pentagon said, A House of Dynamite is inaccurate, that did not reflect the world's, quote, really combustible environment. But one of the big contention points, I should say, Elle, of this movie is that like people are really fighting over its ending, right? Like this idea of like, hey, is that ending satisfying? Is that ending disappointing? Is that ending realistic to how this scenario would kind of feel? Without giving away too much about how this movie ends, how did you feel about the quote unquote resolution at the end of this movie?
Yeah, I think there's a similarity to The Diplomat here, where people want to kind of not engage with the Trump regime at all. So we kind of place everything back into this almost fictional Obama-ized time. So, we have Idris Elba as a Black president, or in the case of The Diplomat, a woman president, so like perhaps a Hillary figure coming up too. And that's interesting because it feels like a bit of a cop-out, right? That we're not actually going to think about what would happen in this day if there's a nuclear strike or something on America with Trump in charge. Like that's probably the actually interesting point. So we sort of end the movie at the exact point where the implications of American policy should begin, which is what would it mean for a country led by Trump to have Trump's finger on the button with, a completely unhinged and out of control administration that's like threatening Canada of all places as well. And so I feel it allows itself to remain in this imaginary space where we can go, oh, wouldn't that be terrible if this missile is pointing at Chicago, rather than the actual interesting implications of what does it mean that this specific administration at this time that's sending the military itself into its own Chicago were then in control at this time. So I feel like it doesn't actually want to grapple with the very issue that would be central for U.S. at this time.
Kathryn Bigelow, one of the best filmmakers of her generation. She is an expert at creating tension. She's an expert at sort of creating atmosphere. She also made $0 Dark 30 and made The Hurt Locker. I don't think those are the questions that Kathryn Bigelow is personally interested in. I think she's interested in exactly the opposite, which is to say, hey, what if America is maybe not the victim per se, but the locus of attention, and what does that mean for the locus of attention? And I don't think she's interested in asking the question that, comes after that. But for what it's worth, I had a good time watching this movie. And I actually, you know what? At the very end of it, when I finally got to the ending of it, for me, it wasn't a disappointment because she's kind of created this atmosphere of like, I don't know how much further this can go. Kathryn, last word to you. Did the ending work for you?
Nope, really didn't.
Okay. All right.
And I think, I'm interested to see how people continue to respond to this movie. I'm very interested in the scope of Kathryn Bigelow's career.
Yeah.
But I do think it does feel like this, exactly what Elle was saying, like refusal to actually look in the face of what the world looks like right now.
I think we're going to leave it there, but I appreciate your time. You guys are wonderful. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you. Kathryn VanArendonk is a critic at Vulture, and Elle Jones is a poet and assistant professor in the Department of Politics at Mount St. Vincent University in Halifax. You can catch both A House of Dynamite and all seasons of The Diplomat now on Netflix.